Hey, you know what's awesome about summertime? Ice cream cones. What's more summertime than ice cream cones? So I'm here at Lyons Soda Fountain. Gonna go in and get some ice cream. Do you have a favorite flavor of ice cream? I got something in mind, but I don't know if they'll have it here. So sometimes it's like what you want and what they've got, and you gotta figure it out. So I'm gonna go in and see what I can do. Well, while I do that, my friend Tim's over there at the baseball field just across the street. He wants to share a few thoughts with you. I'm gonna go get some ice cream. That's right, I am here at the baseball field. I'm standing on home plate. I'm here at the baseball field because it's summertime, and baseball is a summer game. But the truth is, and you know it as well as I know it, and I've heard people talking about it here in town this week, the summertime is fading fast. The summertime is going away. School starts here at Steamboat Springs this Monday. So when is it, that summer ends? Is it the day that school starts? I don't know, is it the first snow? Or maybe it's September 21st, that official date, if that actually means something. I don't know when exactly summer ends, but I know we're in the later part of summer. And pretty soon these baseball fields will be quiet. Nobody will be out here. Sometimes there's things in life that you wish would last a little longer, and you want to hold on to them, but you can't. You want to make them stay, but it doesn't work that way. There's a story in the Gospel of John that has much of this same sentiment in it. It's a really beautiful and fascinating story. In the Gospel of John, Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, a really interesting story. And then after he raises Lazarus, they plot to kill Jesus. And then at the beginning of the 12th chapter of the Gospel of John, Jesus gets invited to dinner at the home of Lazarus, with Lazarus and Martha and Mary. I guess maybe that's the protocol when you raise somebody from the dead, that you have to invite them over for dinner. It's probably a little bit more than a thank you card kind of thing. You probably have to invite them over for dinner, but then you might wonder, should you get them a gift? But would that be kind of weird? Should you get champagne to celebrate? Is that out of order? But at least the protocol, I think, after you get raised from the dead, you have to invite the raiser over to dinner. So Jesus goes to dinner at the house of Lazarus with Martha and Mary, and something amazing happens at that meal. At some point in time during that meal, Mary slips off. She slips off and she goes and she takes this expensive perfume off the shelf. And I mean expensive, extravagant perfume. This is perfume that would cost like $40,000 in our modern world. She takes this amazingly extravagant jar of perfume. She takes it to where Jesus is. It's in a glass bottle, and she breaks the neck off of it, opening it up. And she pours it out over Jesus' feet. She pours the whole bottle out. She doesn't save some. She just extravagantly pours it out. And then she wipes Jesus' feet with her hair. And while all this is happening, Judas, it turns out, is there, and Judas protests. Jesus says to Mary, what are you doing? Why are you wasting all this expensive perfume? You could sell this for so much money and use that money to help the poor. And then Jesus pipes up and tells Judas, he says, Judas, leave her alone. She has bought this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor with you, Judas, but you won't always have me. It's a really amazing story, a really amazing encounter. And there's so many questions I have about it, so many things that intrigue me. And I think, why did she do this? Why did he say that? But if I back up from it and just get the big view and the vibe of the story that's happening there, when I back away from it a little bit, It's just really a beautiful and simple encounter. Mary is with Jesus, this person that she loves so much. And she senses or knows that he won't be with her for very long. So time feels short. And she's with Jesus and she loves him, and she just grabs a hold of him. While he's there, while he's with her, she's going to love him with everything she's got. She's going to hold nothing back. And Jesus, in that moment, receives that blessing from her, receives that touch, receives that love. And it makes me wonder about Jesus. When does anybody bless Jesus like Mary does here? You know, in the Gospels, there's so many stories about Jesus, and somebody always wants something from him. They want healing. They want to be made whole. They want to hear what he has to say. They want to see a miracle. People are clamoring for him all the time. It says he has to go out on the lake or up on a mountain to get away from the crowds because everybody wants something from Jesus. So there's so many people that want something from him. And then there's others. They're religious authorities that are trying to trip him. They're trying to entrap him. They're trying to condemn him. So many people want something from him, and others are hunting and hounding him. And his whole ministry he spends in this kind of place. And nobody touches and blesses Jesus like this woman does. And I can feel Jesus just soaking that in the moment. I mean, can you see that scene? The dimness of the candlelight of the meal, the strong smell of the perfume in the air, and Mary just loving Jesus and Jesus letting that wash over him. It makes me think of a story a pastor I know told at a conference we were at years ago. And he told a story about he was in a downtown part of a city. I don't even remember what city it was. But he was in this downtown part of the city, and as he walked along the street, there was a man laying in the gutter, a homeless man who was laying in the gutter. And as he got near to him, he could see that the man had vomit all down his shirt, all down his chest, wiped across his mouth, caught in his beard. And this man looked terrible, and he smelled terrible. It's the kind of scene that maybe sometimes your first instinct might be just to walk around and give a little distance, or to maybe act like you didn't even see. But this pastor talked about in that moment, his heart just for some reason was filled with so much compassion that he got down on his knees in the gutter next to this man. He got down there with him. He spoke to him. He got him sitting up after a little bit. And finally, he took his hands and he stood the man up. And after he stood that man up, he just put his arms around him and held him, brought him close to him and held all that, the vomit, the smell. He grabbed everything about this man and just held him close as tears ran down that pastor's eyes from the compassionate heart that he had. And after they embraced, the man, who also now had tears in his eyes, looked back at that pastor and he said, "Thank you. Thank you." And then he said something so powerful. He said, "Nobody has touched me since I came back from the Vietnam War. Nobody has touched me." And this was like some 20 years later. And he said nobody had touched him until this pastor embraced him and held him close. That man needed that touch, needed that blessing. And I think Jesus in that room needed that blessing from Mary as well, needed that loving and compassionate touch and blessing that she offered to him in that moment. And Jesus says this powerful phrase, "You will always have the poor, but you won't always have me." You're not going to always have me with you. It speaks to that kind of moment when there's something special that you have, but you know it's not going to last. That you know you have to let it go because you can't hold on to it. And it makes me think about you and in your life. and what you might be letting go of, what you might be wishing you could hold on to just a little bit longer. Because most of us in some way or another are letting go all the time. And maybe it can be as trivial and simple as that ice cream cone. You know when you get that ice cream cone in these summer days and it starts to melt and it starts to drip? And what do? You eat it, right? You lick it. You can't wait. You can't make that ice cream cone last. You can simply soak up its sweetness and goodness and enjoy it in the moment that you have. So our letting go might be as simple as something like an ice cream cone that we can't hang on to. Or maybe it's the summertime that we wish would last a little bit longer before those snows come. Or maybe it's your kids who are going back to school and you're not quite ready for that. Or maybe you have a kid going off to college, and how did that happen so soon? Or maybe you find yourself letting go of a loved one who you know you're losing and your time is short. Or maybe it's your own health as you feel it declining, as you feel it changing. That aging process where all of us, after we get past a certain age, you start letting go of things that you used to be able to do, and maybe now you have to do them differently, or you can't do them at all, and you're letting go of that. Whatever it is that you're letting go of, you can't hold it. If you try to make it stay, it will slip through your fingers. But what you can do, what I can do, is embrace the moment, this moment, and love where you are and love who you're with, and take it in with all that you have in you. When I read this scripture about Mary and Jesus, I think there's a lesson in there for all of us. You know, sometimes it's not about feeding the poor. Sometimes it's not about the sensible decision. Sometimes it's just about embracing the moment as deeply and fully as you can. So maybe we can take a lesson from Mary, and maybe we can realize, you know what we shouldn't do in our lives? We shouldn't leave our oil on the shelf. No. We should find a way to pour out our oil, to pour out our blessings. We shouldn't let our ice cream cone melt. We need to pour out our blessings and to take the sweetness of life in. Mary and Jesus in this room had an extraordinarily beautiful moment, a moment that they shared together. I pray that you may embrace the moments of your life. May you embrace the beauty and the people that are around you right now. Don't let it pass you by. Embrace that moment and live it as fully and deeply as you can while you have it. And now I'm kind of wondering what kind of ice cream that my friend ended up with over there at Lion's Drug. Well, I ended up with chocolate chip cookie dough. Not what I had in mind, but I don't know, sounds pretty good to me. Look, it is melting all over already, but don't worry. I know what to do. I learned a lesson from Mary and Jesus, and I got this.